You're watching The Citizen Report, real, in-depth American.
Welcome to The Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon, and thank you for joining me tonight. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. It's always good to be back here with you. Thank you so much for joining me. So tonight, I wanted to come on and address something that I haven't taken the time to do so. I've been off The Citizen Report for the last couple of weeks, but something very historic took place this month, and before February is officially in the history books, as the saying goes. I wanted to address something that is personally near and dear to my heart, and perhaps for a lot of you as well. And that is the organization formerly known as the Boy Scouts of America. And the reason I wanted to come on and address this is, one, because I'm actually an Eagle Scout. I went through the Boy Scouts started in the Cub Scouts actually in 2005, and culminating in me earning the rank of Eagle Scout in 2014. And I officially stayed in the organization for a short time in leadership until I believe it was 2015 when my career wrapped up in the Boy Scouts. But I wanted to address something that was in the headlines, and it's, of course, they've already moved on to, that's how the news media works. They're so quick to, they're like as Rush Limbaugh would say, they're like the drive-by media, and he was absolutely correct on that one, because they really are, because it's like as soon as they're done with one thing, they're on to the next thing. And I just wanted to really take the time that it deserves and address this, because something happened this month, and it was announced in 2024. So last year, the National Council, you might call it, announced that they were rebranding the Boy Scouts of America as Scouting America. And you may have heard that the Boy Scouts were in bankruptcy due to, and this is YouTube, so hopefully it's okay to use this phrase, but there were a lot of cases of sexual abuse. I'm not discounting at all the seriousness of that. And in fact, there is a lot of things that are happening right now to sort of bring to light things that were done wrong against people against their will. And that's and we are in that sort of that time period where there is all this cleansing going on. But I feel like there was something deeper than just simply dealing with historical cases of that. And also with the Boy Scouts renaming themselves, I believe that categorically was the wrong thing to do. I've done something tonight, or I didn't start tonight. I've typed this up over a period of time, and I'm going to read it. If you'll allow me, hopefully it's okay hopefully you don't mind me doing this. I'm not the type of person that likes to read from a teleprompter very much. But tonight I wanted to read what I've wrote, because I wanted to try to keep on point and make sure I hit all the points that I intend to make with this. So I beg your indulgence, if you will, as I read this. It will take me a few minutes to kind of get through this. But this is from the heart. This is really me. This is not someone else typing it, and then some figurehead, aka a news anchor, gets on set and they just read out what someone else typed. These are actually my words, and I just wanted to make sure that I hit it just about right for something that, in my perception of things, is extremely important. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to read through what I've written as like a speech or like a monologue. And then I might have something to say about other topics at the end of the show tonight, being that this is a live show. And also, it's been a couple weeks, as I said, since I last did the Citizen Report. So a lot of things have happened, and I wanted to try to touch on some of the more important elements of what's been going on. So without further ado, folks, again, I appreciate you hanging with me as I read through this, because again, These are my words that I'm about to read, but I wanted to make sure that I get the tone just about right, but most importantly, that the content of what I want to cover in this particular on this particular topic, I want to make sure that I cover that. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and read this to you about the Boy Scouts. So tonight, I want to discuss for a few moments something that took place this month. Some of you may know about it, but others may not. This month, after over a century of being known as the Boy Scouts of America, the organization officially became known as Scouting America. The announcement was made several months ago in 2024. And while the name change is being presented by the organization in a perhaps celebratory way, I see it differently. It's very sad watching the Boy Scouts fading into oblivion. And by the way, I'll just go off script for a second. I don't say that lightly, but I do believe it's not too much to say it's basically fading. The organization, the Boy Scouts, they are fading. And it grieves me to say that. We are in a time where there is like a purification going on in personal lives and in as well as in our nation, America. But there's also a lot of counter things going on, I'll say. But that was me going off script there. So let me get back on point. But basically, yes, it is very sad watching the Boy Scouts fading into oblivion, made complete this month with their name changed to Scouting America. Yes, technically, they may have just changed their name, brought on a new logo, changed the font, make it look a little more modern, a little more contemporary, you might say. Of course, they're retaining the emblem of the BSA, which is, basically in line with the World Scouting emblem. But to me, despite the organization being called the Scouting America, they will always be known to me, by me, as Boy Scouts of America. And by choice, I will continue to refer to the organization as such. And no, it is not sexist to be saying Boy Scouts of America, wanting to call it that over Scouting America. That is a conditioning, and again, I'm going off script. It is conditioning by the education system, mainstream education system, as well as the mainstream Mockingbird media. So no, it is not sexist to be saying Boy Scouts of America, wanting to call it that versus Scouting America. Young men need a program to grow and mature, just as young women also do. But God created man and woman with different traits. They don't compete with each other. Instead, they complement each other. For years, the BSA was an organization that fostered that for young men. Of course, no organization is perfect, but suffice it to say, it was an ideal the BSA strived for, to be an organization that was truly an organization that sought to foster young men who had reverence for God, develop strong masculinity, and, become leaders in society. So in many ways, that continues even under the new name. So just because we have this new name, it's not to say that all of a sudden everything good from the Boy Scouts is suddenly no longer there. I know for a fact that there are people that I know that I'm not sure if they're still in the organization, but I can imagine the likes of them will strive to continue to uphold, for example, the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. So, though I'm sure the woke mob would try to eventually remove God from the equation also if left unchecked. So, for now, the Scout Oath and Law still, basically upholds what it means to be basically a young man with reverence for God. And if we're to just simplify it, boil it all down, it's basically the Boy Scouts was basically to train young men to walk in the ways of God. Now, of course, they're not strictly They haven't, strictly speaking, been a religious organization. That's, of course, the church, and that's kind of what the Boy Scouts was supposed to be. Basically you're chartered at a church. Obviously, just because you're chartered there and you may hold troop meetings at a church, it doesn't mean that you go to that church. But it's implied, obviously, that being in that environment, that you're also getting exposure to the church environment. So extrapolating that, therefore, going to the Boy Scouts, being in the Boy Scouts, it wasn't a replacement for going to church per se, and having that time with God. Because just because you're in the Boy Scouts and you're supposed to be reverent and all, it does not mean that it equates to you actually having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. But it would seem to go hand in hand with it, is what I'm trying to say. So once again, I've gone off script, but I at times feel led to say certain things. And I followed in my dad's footsteps, and I became an Eagle Scout in my own right in 2014. I will always be grateful for getting there despite much difficulty of my own. I know that the Boy Scouts gave me skills that I needed to navigate life's challenges that would surely come in adulthood. Oh, believe me, they did. In recent years, the mainstream media has done one hit piece after another, accusing the Boy Scouts as being backwards and also an environment for, sexual abuse. Any case of SA, sexual abuse, should be dealt with full justice of law. Proper investigation, due course of law, due diligence, all of that. But to make the organization or the program out to be nothing but just, basically an environment that fostered SA would be a mistake. It is, I can tell you from personal experience, the whole organization certainly was not that. Meanwhile, however, I always felt that there was something deeper in play. As the Me Too movement often showed, the media mostly did not care about giving victims a voice until it became politically expedient to do so. The care they showed was almost always insincere. And as soon as their target was extinguished and their character assassination complete, they once again went back to indifference about the victim, aside from any occasional political advantage in showcasing that victim. Figuratively speaking, the victim was dumped out of the mainstream media van, or as Rush Limbaugh might call it, the drive-by media, as it sped onward towards its next big story, or I might say, propaganda. Now sure, there are real reporters out there, for sure. But I'm speaking more about the agenda, the mainstream media outlets, and those controlling such generally. To put it simply, therefore, the victims were made into pawns. Victims deserve a voice. And there are some news outlets that truly treat victims with the respect they deserve by giving them a needed voice. I know that in the Me Too movement, there were definitely cases where there were stories that needed to be brought to light. In fact, there were a lot of things that needed to be brought out into the light so that there would be justice. But we need to remember that just because the media gives that a voice, it doesn't always mean that they truly care about the victim. But turning back to the BSA, with all due respect, I have serious questions about whether the leadership of the organization actually intends to operate with due diligence and fiduciary duty. I know of many people who would lead the organization with righteousness and integrity. Instead, almost everything I have seen in recent years with the Boy Scouts of America, now officially Scouting America, it's become essentially one appeasement after another towards people, a group, a mob that never cared about the Boy Scouts or young men and their well-being to begin with. Do you notice a pattern? Because like I was saying, the media does not really care on the average about the person. They care about the ratings, and whoever controls them, whatever agenda, whatever talking points that they want to promote, that's what they really care about. And basically, it really comes down to appeasement. So call it all you want, but what is happening is a systemic attack on masculinity and how God intended for it. Perhaps years from now, if they ever do, the organization formerly known as the Boy Scouts of America, and in my book, still known as such, will understand that it is not a name change or inclusivity that will make the organization better. It is putting God first. In fact, it, thankfully for now, remains part of the Scout Oath and Law. In of itself, a name change is neither a good thing or a bad thing. But it is the reasoning behind this name change that makes it not good. It is another example of watering down what has been an organization at the fore of promoting godly values and American patriotism. The whole notion of appeasing the woke mob and calling it a step forward is instead a failure to operate with a sober mind. Of course, none of us are perfect. I think it is indeed a matter to contend earnestly for the faith in operating in a sober mind. We're actually called in Scripture essentially to do just that. I'll go further by saying learning to operate in the sound mind of Christ. That's the objective. Living life to the fullest and giving God all the glory. As I've said before, none of us are perfect. Learning to operate in the mind of Christ is an ongoing lesson learned day by day. We're all a work in progress. I know personally that it is truly a day by day transformative work by the Holy Spirit of God. The Boy Scouts would do well to remember that and stand its ground hereafter, allowing God to offer His strength, not planted on the sounds of politics and appeasement, but on the solid rock and the solid foundation of God and His Word. And folks, that is my monologue concerning the Boy Scouts of America becoming officially known as Scouting America. I'm gonna just share something on a somewhat personal note as well, that my dad and I would have conversations when he was still living. And by the way, this month, it was 4 years this month that my dad passed away, went home to be with the Lord. And my dad and I would talk about this, and I know my dad was deeply grieved by what he was seeing taking place in the Boy Scouts even back then. And what we saw in the Boy Scouts, like I said in my monologue, it is one appeasement after another. And these people that they're trying to appease, first of all, these people they're trying to appease are controlled by a spirit. Now, I am not, strictly speaking, in the quote-unquote prophetic, in the sense that I don't go around saying this person has this spirit, is being influenced by this spirit. I'm just saying that the woke mob, they're being influenced by spirits. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. And we need to remember that the more we appease, we're not appeasing mere men. We're trying to appease demons that ultimately want to bring about destruction. And what I'm seeing in the Boy Scouts, as with many things in society, is basically, at minimum, best case scenario, really, we're seeing people that think that they can appease these people and think, okay, if we give them this little bit, they will be happy. Will be back in their good graces. We might even land some deals, like, and I'll just say this, and I'm at liberty to share this, but at least when I was in the Boy Scouts of America, in the program officially, I knew that the popcorn sales weren't as great as they could be. And in fact, I'll just tell you, when it came to popcorn sales, right? Essentially, well, let's just look at it this way. Girl Scout cookies are promoted in the media. You'll hear about it in the local news, national news. They'll say, "Oh, the Girl Scout cookies, they're now on sale." But believe me, it is not nearly as much mentioned about Boy Scout, popcorn. And I'm not saying that popcorn was or wasn't the right thing to be selling. I'm just saying that the media, they, for whatever reason, decided to promote the Girl Scout side of things with what they were doing with their, cookie sales. You saw the Boy Scouts and you saw the Girl Scouts, and, like the Boy Scouts would be selling in getting towards the mid to late fall, right? I think if I remember correctly, around November-ish. And they would go, they would set up their stands in front of the grocery store, right? And the Girl Scouts would set up their stands usually a little bit after New Year's or around, I forget, I don't know, January, maybe February, I'm not exactly sure, but around that time frame. And, and at least for the Boy Scout side of things, we would also go and canvass neighborhoods, trying to sell it. At least that's what it was when I was in the final bit of Cub Scouts around that time frame. But basically, the Boy Scouts, the leadership there has decided to basically, in my view, in my humble opinion, basically remove all uniqueness to their brand. Notwithstanding their emblem and stuff like that, their heritage, their legacy. Obviously, there's things that set them apart, such as being an Eagle Scout, the ranks itself, and stuff like that. The ecosystem with scout camps and the like. But it cannot be dismissed, in my view, that this was an appeasement, just another step of it. And I'm sure they think, okay, if we rename ourselves Scouting America, we'll just, make everyone feel great. It's all, we're not favoring one gender or another. But believe me, folks, the mob, influenced by demonic spirits, they're not going to be satisfied with it. Because again, demonic spirits ultimately want to bring about destruction. So, and I do not say that lightly. And so, in our personal lives, as well, and I guarantee you, no one in the leadership of the Boy Scouts of America, now Scouting America officially, they're not going to see this video. But if I were to give them a message directly, it would be this. You need to remember what you are called to be as a scout. You are supposed to be reverent. You're supposed to be, you're supposed to have a sound mind, basically. And the notion that you can just appease and appease and appease, that is not, I'll say it again, it is not what the Scouts are teaching or supposed to be teaching. You're not supposed to be teaching appeasement. You're supposed to be teaching standing your ground, knowing your identity as a young man made in the image of God. Hopefully you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That's not officially required, by the way, by the, we'll call it BSA. But basically, you're supposed to stand your ground. You're not supposed to be appeasing. And that is, and what happened here is not what is being presented. It is not a well-packaged thing that, oh, we can all just feel good about this. No, this is another appeasement that does nothing but remove individuality to this organization. And I'm just telling you folks that if the right people do not get in control of this organization, because it's been going off the cliff now for several years, but I mean, if they really do, if the right people, if righteous people, and again, none of us are perfect, but if people with the sound mind of Christ, allowing the Holy Spirit to work through them, if those people do not become, get to the helm of Scouting America, what it's officially known as, this organization is going to be obsolete. It's just going to be, and I don't say that lightly, because again, I'm an Eagle Scout. Once an Eagle Scout, once an Eagle, always an Eagle. And I like to think of being an Eagle as a duality. You're an Eagle Scout as recognized by the organization, but you're also scripturally supposed to be soaring as an eagle. Those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strengths. They shall mount up their wings as eagles. In other words, soar, eagle, soar. And, basically what, the people that should be in control of that organization are should be Eagle Scouts, or at least people with enough background to scouting. Now, actually, I would be totally fine if someone never even got into the Boy Scouts as a kid, actually take up the leadership role if they actually do good with it. So that's pretty much, I just wanted to take a few moments to address that. And I'm going to wrap this up pretty shortly partly because of timing constraints, but I wanted to mention a couple of things. So first of all, concerning the story that I did earlier this month, the Oklahoma storm chasing bill, it appears to still be potentially something that's moving forward. I have not heard about the bill passing yet, but I believe it's at least still a possibility. And when I taped my last show, I had said that I had messaged or emailed State Representative Fettgatter, I believe that's his name, and as of now, and it's been at least 2 weeks now, I believe more than 2 weeks, and I have not heard a response back. I did hear from an aide that apologized for the late response. They would, this person would try, if I was still interested to get somehow get me a response in some way, shape, or form. And I obliged, and I messaged back saying, sure, I'll always be more than happy to take a statement from him. I forget what the wording exactly, but I have not seen a statement as of last check. So I'll let you know if that changes, but honestly, I wouldn't expect it to change. But I wanted to mention that just in passing. It's not enough of an update to do its own episode, so I just mention it as a kind of a footnote. But the other thing I wanted to mention, and this is going to be on a more personal note, and I haven't said anything about it truly in the public sphere, but just on, just to sort of, a certain, well, we'll call it closed-circuited audience on Facebook. And that is, I was asking for prayer for those to pray and intercede for me. And I sincerely, and I do mean this, sincerely appreciate that. And it's been quite a week. And I would ask that if you're inclined to do so, to continue to pray for me in Jesus' name. I am okay. But it has been a pretty intense week, not just for myself, but I'm just speaking on a personal note here. But please just continue to pray for me, and basically for God's protection and for His strength. So this week has kind of rattled me a little bit, but we're not supposed to look merely at what is going on around us. We're supposed to remember that who's in control, and that is God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That Jesus does sit on the throne in heaven, and we do have His Spirit, the Holy Spirit, indwelling us, sealing us unto the day of redemption. So, thank you to everyone. And I'll just say it again: thank you to everyone that has been praying for me, interceding for me. I really did feel. I really did truly feel a difference, is what I'm trying to say. And this has been, like I said, it's been an intense week. And even me coming on tonight doing this episode, I'm not going to lie, it's not been the easiest. But hopefully this landed about right with this episode. So on that note, I'll go ahead and wrap it up here. But God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching The Citizen Report, and I'll just put up the website on the screen now, thecitizenreport.net. That is where you can go to get all the links to social media. You can subscribe right here on YouTube to my YouTube channel. That's where I occasionally, for now, will be doing live shows. And of course, go to rumble.com, keyword search The Citizen Report to watch pre-taped episodes. So. There are exceptions, but for the most part, live shows after they air on YouTube will also be uploaded as a recording to Rumble. So, on Rumble, for the most part, you won't miss out on anything that's been posted of recent. There was only one exception to that, and I believe that was the earthquake episode or live show. I believe what happened down south of Gulf of America, down I believe in the Caribbean Sea region. And basically, that that was not uploaded to Rumble after the show. But for the most part, live shows after they run live on YouTube, they do go up on Rumble. So just thought I'd make mention of that. But please subscribe to both, especially Rumble. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you right back here again next time by the grace of God. Have a good night, everyone.